This is my Triumph tree from my college advisor, Dr. Merwin, who has Black Diamond Orchards up in Trumansburg, New York. And he sent this to me last spring, and I don't want to say I have favorites, but this one's pretty special because it's from him, and you know, the name Triumph, it came at a time. Last spring was really tough. So I just wanted to do a quick video here to show you, this is the idea of the living wall. So I've got eye bolts that are about 2.5 feet off the ground, and I'm training the branches here, right? Training them to grow laterally. And as this grows, you know, I'll do another row of wire, and hopefully all of these bays will be filled with apples. So over here, I've got a Monty Surprise. That's a really interesting apple variety that was found in New Zealand fairly recently, in the last couple decades, and then it sat in the FDA until it was approved. But this, it's supposed to have really amazing cancer fighting properties. So I got that from Burnt Ridge Nurseries out in Washington State. Got my Triumph tree. And then this is one of the old French ones I planted on Thanksgiving. Yeah, Calville Blanc. This is from a farm in Illinois. And so what I learned from the Tennessee Extension, David, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name right now. It'll come to me. But I told him, I said, look, I got these apple trees and they're kind of just sticks. And how do I make them branch out? And he said, what you do is you go to the tip, the top of it, and you want to cut it to about 3 feet. Which, you know, it feels very awkward. Oh, David Lockwood. I knew I would remember David Lockwood. And he is just kind of the fruit expert in Tennessee. He's actually from Rochester, New York, which is really cool. So he said, you cut the top, right? So I cut this a few months ago, and I cut it on an angle so that, you know, water doesn't sit, water will drip off. And if you cut it, he says, you're going to encourage lateral growth. It's this thing called apical dominance, and I'll do a video on that too. So these guys, unlike the Triumph, they're not shooting off their lateral limbs yet. But I trimmed the tops, and I'm hopeful that, you know, and not so long from now, they'll be shooting off branches. This year we've got our Espalier Spitzenberg. That's allegedly Thomas Jefferson's fave. This is another obviously old school French variety. We've got our Orleans Renette. Same thing here. And I cut the top. You can see at an angle, and you cut it right before a clump of leaves. And then finally, let's see, I can't remember this one. Oh, I know. This is the one I planted with my niece. Chenango Strawberry. This is from Stark Brothers. Also, I cut the top. So eventually, this whole area, you've got your bays, and it will be lined with, you know, the horticultural term would be espalier. And the Triumph is the most mature so far. But my guess is by the end of the summer that I'll have the 2-foot eye bolts on each bay and hopefully have some limbs starting to be trellised. We have our Arkansas Black in full blossom right now. And one thing I've learned, you know, a lot of this of course is trial and error. This was a very mature tree that I bought potted from a nursery. So I bought this locally, and the tricky thing is, you want to say, okay, if it's a potted tree, it's more mature, it's going to bear fruit faster, which is likely true, but the problem is you had no opportunity to get it to grow correctly, right? So the way that apple trees are supposed to grow is they've got like one, you know, central column, and then you want to make the angles as wide as possible, like a 90-degree angle is ideal. So I got these spacers from Stark Brothers, and this is a 6-inch, we got a 9-inch, and then I have some 12s on order. And I had another really, really strong branch growing up, but I cut it because you really only want one central leader. And you see where this is like a very tight V, that's weak. And so if it started to bear fruit, you run into risks of splitting the tree. So, you know, compare that with a tree like this. Now this is a tree that I bought bare root, and what is this one? Okay, Liberty. This I got from Stark Brothers in Missouri. And you can see here, you know, it's much smaller, less mature, but they're more malleable. And so this is where I was trying to do my cattle panel, train the branches kind of thing with the T-post. And here you can see like the ideal is to have a very wide angle. In fact, this I should probably redo and tie it down to here, which I probably will do. But by putting the pressure, like I said in another video, I think you encourage fruit production sooner. Plus you get the tree to grow stronger with the wider limbs, so when it starts to bear fruit and the weight comes on it, it's not as detrimental to the trunk of the tree.